Striker, is this tournament game? Yes, this is Carnage versus Eery in the Cup of Beer tournament. Okay, so our first ban from Carnage was Watering. Oh, whoops. Was Watering Hole. Watering Hole was banned by Carnage. Interesting choice there from Carnage. We just saw Watering Hole, Eery versus Recon, and as you guys can see, you know, it can be an interesting map. So Carnage maybe wanted to keep it a little bit more traditional. Next ban from our players is Eery. Eery is banning Arabia. Eery is banning Arabia. So interesting choice from Eery. Eery actually, funnily enough, in the... Oh my gosh, I keep messing this up. Sorry guys, I'll get the hang of it. Funnily enough, Eery just lost kind of a cavalry versus cavalry game on Watering Hole, so maybe Eery's not keen to do cavalry versus cavalry again, which is what you normally see on Arabia. You normally see a lot of cavalry play there. So alright, next ban is Inland from Carnage. Carnage bans Inland. So our blue player has banned Inland. And then, guys, check this. And Inland, you know, Inland can be, it's a very, I love Inland. It's a very cool map created by Recon, but it can be a little wacky sometimes with the lake spawns there. So, and it is just a wacky map in general with so many choke points. But, guys, check this out. Are you ready for this? Do you want to know what Eery's final ban was? Eery has banned Equal Footing. Eery has banned Equal Footing, folks. Probably the most balanced map in the game, most basic map in the game, and Eery has banned it. And now we have a map pool of Mountain Crossing, Treasure Island, and Sheltered Pass. Okay. And Carnage has chosen Treasure Island first, and he has chosen to play as the Celts. Meanwhile, Eery on Treasure Island has chosen to play as the Norse. So we have got Eery's Norse versus Carnage's Celts on Treasure Island for game number 1. Folks, game number 1 is beginning. Are you ready? Get your popcorn ready. We have got game number 1, Eery versus Carnage, coming right up. Celts versus Norse on Treasure Island. Yeah, I'm interested to know why Eery banned Equal Footing as well. I don't know that Carnage just has like a massive advantage on Equal Footing. I think it's just Well, I don't know. Maybe, you know, mountain crossing and sheltered path. So Carnage is very much a raider. You know, Carnage is very good with raiding. Carnage is always all over the map, and so maybe, you know, with these maps here that we have, they're somewhat defensible. And so I wonder if maybe Eery's thinking is he wants to maybe he wants to try to deny Carnage his raiding opportunities. We'll see. But very interesting choice there from Eery for sure. So, in the blue corner we have Carnage. He's got his barracks coming down already. He's on his hunts here. Gathering from wood as well. 2 villagers on his barracks. So very fast barracks there for Carnage, and look at this. Poor rhino. Eery already killing that rhino. But that's going to provide a nice source of food for him on his hunt here. Here comes Eery's barracks. He's building it with 2 villagers. We'll see if he does not choose to send his scout over there. This scout can help build the barracks, but choosing instead to build it with 2 villagers, so it'll build a little bit faster there. Those 2 villagers. Carnage getting out his first spearman here. It's on his wood line as well. So very nice there from Carnage. Meanwhile, Eery also on his wood line and is getting out a couple spearmen now as we speak. So both players pretty standard opening. Almost dead even on villagers. It's now 12 and 12, so pretty much dead even on villagers. And look at this, Eery moving in with his 2 scouts here, both melee and ranged scout. Carnage up to 4, almost 5 spearmen, while Eery now has 3. So Carnage may have been able to press an advantage. He's now moving out with 5 spearmen. He's gonna, by the time he gets there, Eery will have 4 spearmen with a 5th on the way. And so we'll see if Carnage is able to do any damage with this. Look at this, Eery also trailing the spearmen with the ranged scout here. So dealing some damage to this spearman. Carnage is going to move in his scout as well. He's got another spearman to reinforce here. Another one kind of back behind, but recognizes now that, yeah, Eery's now up to 6 spearmen. So, and with his scouts, Carnage just was not going to be able to deal any damage there. This rhino might give him some fits. Look at this, Carnage opening with a dock in the back corner. Does Eery know about this? He does not. So Carnage on the water first. All I'm saying is Wonder on Treasure Island or we riot. I'm kidding. Alpha Leopard, to answer your question. So the last match was Casper versus Striker. Striker won that 2-0, and then we had a show match with it was not for the tournament, but just a show match between Eery and Recon. Recon won that, and now we're in the first game of Carnage versus Eery. This is the next match in the tournament, in the winners bracket, and these two are between Eery and Carnage and Zerton. They are certainly favored to win this tournament. So Carnage trying to get something done with his spears here that he's invested so heavily into, but you know, his spears are a little bit faster than the Norse spearmen, but Um, but these Norse Spearmen are a little tankier, so Carnage not able to get much here. Eery and Carnage both are in H2. Look at this. Carnage has got his scout kind of parked on the coastline over here for Eery to scout when Eery goes for a dock. And Eery now has some throwing axemen onto the field as well. So it looks like Carnage might lose a spearman or two here. What's Carnage going for here? He's going for a second barracks and a second town center on these berries. Very defensive second town center. Just trying to get it up quick here. Getting that second barracks up at the same time, so he's going to be able to start churning out some long swords here. These long swords will hopefully be able to deal with these throwing axemen, but these throwing axemen with their range, they've got a 3 times multiplier against infantry, so very big there for Eery. Let's see, did Eery scout this? He did? That's weird. Yeah, I guess he did scout it. That's a weird kind of thing there, though. But Carnage trying to intercept these infantry units for Eery. Eery, maybe it looked like he had an idea to perhaps go for this dock, to try to deny this dock, and Carnage was able to intercept it there. Eery now trying to kite a little bit with these throwing axemen, try to kind of move back here, but these long swords are going to provide the advantage for Carnage. So Eery slowly moving back, trying to mass up his throwing axemen here, streaming out throwing axemen. Carnage still trying to watch for that dock, and so Carnage has not built a swan ship yet because he doesn't see a dock for Eery, so there's no reason to build a swan ship if Eery's not going to go for the water. And perhaps Eery has recognized that there's no reason for him to go to the water, since Carnage can quickly deny him the water with the swan ship. So Eery kind of focusing on the land here. He's got now 3 barracks up, and again it's just trying to mass these throwing axemen. These throwing axemen, if he can get a huge mass of throwing axemen, they can be very advantageous for the Norse player. Again, given their range, given their multiplier against infantry. They do cost food, wood, and gold, total of 60 resources, but these longswords cost 60 as well, food and gold, and don't have the range like the throwing axemen do. Now, if you can micro the longswords well, they do have 7 speed to 6 speed, so they're a little bit faster. Look at this. These players just missed each other, though. Carnage moving in with a little bit of a raid over here, and Eery trying to move in with his primary force here on the Carnage's base. Carnage going for slingers, so slingers maybe to try to counter the range of the throwing axemen is the best I can gather. So Carnage throwing out some slingers, gonna get out some druids here, it looks like. Didn't get a ton done with that raid. Still no dock for Eery. We'll see what Eery chooses to do, but I wonder if when he sees these slingers, I think maybe he already saw them. Yeah, he did. I wonder if he'll choose to maybe try to get some raiders onto the field. We'll see. Carnage once again trying to move in for a raid. Small little group of longswords and spears there. Eery, meanwhile, trying to cause trouble for Carnage at home. Carnage slowly massing his units here. Has stopped slinger production and doesn't have any druids queued up yet. He does have 1 druid out. Carnage has defender's advantage here, so he should be able to force Eery away. Eery just trying to kite a little bit with these throwing axemen. drop some units as he can here. And he did get a couple long swords. But look at this, Carnage just hit H3. Eery is is going to be H3 as well. And so we'll see what these players transition to in H3. Look at this. Eery building archer ranges now. So Eery may be going for some bowmen, some Norse bowmen in H3. And it looks like Carnage also going to choose to transition to bowman now that he is in H3. Carnage building his third town center in his tree line here. Third town center coming down for Eery on this tree line. And we'll see where Eery puts his markets. I assume maybe right in here somewhere. He might be hesitant to put it along the coastline. You know, that would be the maximum range, would be along the coastline here for that maximum range market line. But he might be a little weary of that in case Carnage sees that and gets a couple swan ships over there. So we'll see where Eery ultimately decides to build his market line. I assume it's probably going to be in here somewhere. But Eery trying to mass up his units. Look at these Harjars. Very cool looking units, but getting Harjars onto the field to counter those long swords. Meanwhile, Carnage, very large amount of slingers, but is starting to mix in a lot of bowmen. So he's got a good amount of long swords, a good amount of bowmen and slingers. So trying to go for a pretty heavy ranged composition to counter these ranged throwing axemen, which Eery is now up to 41 throwing axemen. So very scary there for Eery. Well, scary for Carnage, scary from Eery. PF2K has requested enabling vanity gear. Where is it? So vanity gear, you've got cosmetic upgrades to. I mean, regular gear is only cosmetic in champion mode PvP anyway, but the vanity gear is even cooler. Allows players to customize their units. Big engagement here. We'll see if Carnage is able to translate this into a win. He's able to kite with his ranged units here. He did lose all of his longswords. Those longswords just got completely eaten by these bowmen and throwing axemen from Eery. Eery just has so much damage from these throwing axemen and these bowmen. So those longswords just completely got eaten there. And now Carnage is on the retreat. Now here's yet another big engagement here for these players. So Carnage is trying to kite, you know, with his ranged units here. He is invested very heavily into these bowmen. 32 bowmen, 14 slingers, so and he's got a couple druids mixed in there. So he's very heavy on the ranged because he recognizes that he's going to have to fight ranged with range. Still has a few leftover longswords, but we'll see. Now that he's in H3, you know, I wonder if he might transition to horsemen to try to get some raiding done with the horsemen. I don't know, but here comes the market line for Carnage. Investing very heavily into these archery ranges. And yeah, here come a few stables. So, kind of as I thought, he might be going for some horsemen to try to get some speed from the horsemen. And some meteor units, you know, to kind of deal, be a meat shield here for his ranged units. But look at this, Eery's going to be able to pick up that villager, one villager, but that stable does go up. Carnage, bobbing and weaving, slowly dealing damage to these throwing axemen. Now all of a sudden, Eery is forced to fall back a little bit because Carnage just very well done there. Kites and continues to kites and kite and kite. and is able to deal a lot of damage there to the range units, or the throwing axemen of Eery. So now all of a sudden Carnage is able to pretty decisively defend his base here, and he may have an advantage. We'll see. I am a big fan of these. Where'd those druids go? These druids have pretty cool. They have Norse weapons, and so when they're healing, they don't have their healing staff out right now, but it's got like deer antlers. It's pretty cool. Carnage is now pressing the advantage here. He's pressing the offensive. We're gonna see what kind of damage Carnage can deal here, and look at this huge volley onto the units of Eery. Eery now trying to mix in some skirmishers to deal with these range units of Carnage, but Carnage very smartly has both slingers and bowmen. And look at this, Carnage. Very nicely done. Carnage is able to decimate the army of Eery there. Check that out. Check out that staff for the druid. Very cool. But look at this. Nice raid here from Eery. So, very good little raid here from Eery with these throwing axemen. But we'll see. What is Eery going to choose to do here? Maybe he needs to throw down some stables and get some raiders. Raiders do have the speed. Here's some stables over here. Raiders do have speed, and they also have a bonus against ranged units. So, perhaps raiders might be Eery's best bet here, but instead he's choosing to invest heavily into Harjars and is getting some berserkers onto the field as well. Very cool looking berserkers there. Berserkers are one of the best units that the Norse have, but they are still pretty slow infantry units, and so these ranged units are going to be able to kite those berserkers. Look at this. Horsemen onto the field for Carnage. Carnage also maybe anticipating the raiders from Eery, or the horsemen from Eery, and so he's building some horsemen of his own, Carnage is, to try to be a meat shield there. But look at this, Carnage trying to kite a little bit. He didn't kite very much there, and kind of paid the price for it. Those infantry units of Eery were able to get right onto the front lines there of Carnage and deal quite a bit of damage. I don't know what that market is there for Carnage. I'm not sure what he's doing there. He is now building another market there. He does need to establish some defense over here. As you can see, Eery has walled up these choke points on this kind of plateau. Treasure Island not only has the ocean and the Treasure Island, but also has kind of this plateau with a couple choke points. And Eery pretty much completely controls the plateau on the western edge of the map there. So Carnage needs to try to throw up some walls to defend his market line, because pretty soon Carnage is going to be gold starved. He needs to establish that market line very quickly. And look at this, Eery now all of a sudden pushing heavily into Carnage's base. These skirmishers are doing really well for Eery. And the berserker meat shield there had a few raiders mixed in, not very many, but with the meat shield of the berserkers and the Harjars and these skirmishers in the back, a few bowmen as well, Eery is just doing a ton of damage, but Carnage holding strong. He does have a defender's advantage now, and look at this, Carnage is transitioning to some Woad Raiders. Woad Raiders have a bonus versus siege, ranged, and priests, and they are pretty quick. They've got 9 speed for infantry, so that's, correct me if I'm wrong, that may be the fastest infantry in the game. Look at this, here comes some horsemen for Carnage. Carnage has several stables onto the field. He is throwing out a lot of horsemen. I'd like to maybe see Carnage go age 4 here, get out some Carpentums. Here comes an engagement. These horsemen are going to provide a nice defense for the bowmen and slingers of Carnage. So they are doing their intended purpose. They're able to block these infantry units for Eery, and so now all of a sudden Eery is having to retreat a little bit. Carnage trying to move in, get onto these skirmishers.
Ahura Mazda, bless.
He needs to take them down. Vonkel thank you very much for the follow on the Project Celeste channel. Everyone welcome Vonkel. Thanks for checking out the game. Big engagement here. It could be anyone's engagement. It looks like Carnage does have a slight defender's advantage here, so Eery is going to slowly bleed units. He's trying to get some horsemen of his own onto the field. These horsemen can kind of deal with these Celtic horsemen. Eery trying to stream units in here, but again, Carnage had the advantage due to the shorter distance. But Carnage is going to just push Eery away from his front door and then fall back because Carnage is a little bit behind in terms of population. Trying to establish some caravans here. Does have these caravans rolling now, while Eery, once again, Eery did establish that market line, kind of where I anticipated. He's got a good defense over here as well. So Eery is very, very protected in terms of his market line, and has his market line established, and has had it established for quite a while. So I'd say Eery maybe has the advantage economically. Let's get a villager count, 90 to 84. So yeah, slight advantage for Eery here, but another big engagement. Carnage trying to get these horsemen to defend his range units. He's got so many bowmen and slingers in the back, and yeah, he's going to be able to pull a slight advantage here. Able to push Eery back. At this point, I believe Carnage does have more military population. Horsemen now on the field for Eery, so these horsemen are going to be able to deal with these Celt horsemen. But it's just such a powerful ranged ball behind this with these druids as well that it's huge for Carnage. Carnage is slowly making his way across the map, slowly beating Eery back into his base. So this is just so back and forth. You know, Carnage had the advantage and was in Eery's base, and then Eery pushed Carnage back and was in Carnage's base, and now Carnage is pushing back across the map. So this is just very back and forth. These players trying to push and establish dominance on the map. Huge engagement in the middle here now. A lot of units going down for Eery. Carnage, though, has lost his meat shield, so now look at this. The infantry units are onto the range units for Carnage, so Carnage having to kite here, but he is doing an effective job. And he's kiting, trying to get rid of these infantry units for Eery, and is able to, but pretty much a stalemate, so both players kind of backing off there, choosing to live to fight another day. Carnage does have those Woad Raiders onto the field now. The Woad Raiders can kind of help, can help fight against these range units, but they can't really do any raiding because Eery just has so much map control. He has these very nicely placed walls on the plateau on the west, and the eastern edge of his base here is walled off and has that fortress. So very nicely done there for Eery. And so many Harjars here. Harjars are basically the meat of his, or the bulk of his meat shield. He's getting some raiders onto the field now as well, so this could be critical for Eery. Eery has these raiders, and he is moving in for a raid at the same time he's moving in his primary force. But look at this, he's missed a raid from Carnage as well. Carnage pushing over here. Eery moving some Harjars back to try to deal with that. The ranged units over here for Carnage. But look at this, raid coming down for Eery. He's going to deny this gold mine from Carnage, and if he sees this, Eery would be able to get onto the market line of Carnage. He's got to know it's there. Oh, is he going to be able to deny this fortress? He may be able to. He's going to try to get those villagers. He does get most of the villagers. And look at this flank from the raiders. Brings the raiders around the back. Able to get into those range units. But these range units so powerful for Carnage. Raining hellfire down to these units. But he is going to have to fall back. Look at this. Oh, is Carnage going to be able to get that fortress up? Oh my goodness. Oh, he doesn't get it. Look at... Oh my god. 50 HP. 2 more hammer swings away on that fortress. Carnage has got to get some villagers over there. He's getting those villagers over now. And look at this. Carnage able to completely decimate the army of Eery. So, despite the fact that he didn't have that fortress, he was able to just destroy the army of Eery. Again, he had defender's advantage. He had a lower travel time for his units, so he's able to delete the army of Eery. And look at this. He also got through the wall over here and is still giving Eery headaches over here with this raid. You know, we saw earlier he was moving these Woad Raiders and the Horsemen over into the base of Eery. He did get in. Here comes another raid from Eery. Fourth town center coming down for Carnage. Carnage also has Carpentums onto the field now as well, so this is going to be very critical for Carnage. These Carpentums do have a ranged bonus. They are mobile units, and they are very, very powerful units for the Celts, so that could be huge. But look at this. Eery snags the market line for Carnage. So Carnage desperately trying to get these Raiders out of here. And look at that. The Raiders also causing trouble at this town center. These Raiders are going to go down. Eery walling his base back up. And was able to finally get that pesky Horseman out of his base there. And Carnage didn't do a ton of damage with his raid, but was able to give Eery a bit of a headache. But meanwhile, Eery starting to transition to Feldens. These Feldens are bonus against range, bonus against cavalry, and bonus against priests. Look at that, though. A 6 times multiplier against range. They are somewhat squishy units. Okay, they only got 290 health. Okay, not a ton of armor. A little bit of armor. 58 pierce armor there, but just huge bonus against range. So if he can properly get these Feldens onto the ranged units for Carnage, that could give Eery a very decisive advantage. He's also got a ton of Raiders as well, so Eery just trying to keep up the pressure. But look at this scary Age 4 army for Carnage. He's got several Carpentums now, up to 20 Carpentums. So he's going to move these units over here to defend against this raid. Again, Eery's trying to destroy this market, just not let Carnage have a market line. And Eery is also pushing into the middle of Carnage's base, so we'll see if Carnage can defend against this. Perhaps he has too many units over here. He needs to get more units into the middle of the map here, in the middle of his base. Oh, this is devastating for Eery. Down to 74 villagers, 73 villagers, so now a 20 villager advantage for Eery, but Carnage trying to hold on here. He's moving his Carpentums back into the battle, back into the fray. A lot of defensive fire here for Carnage, so he does, again, defender's advantage is in his favor for sure. But these Feldens are, oh, they're going to have that bonus against the Carpentums. That's going to be huge. Carnage needs to do his best to kite these Feldens, because if these Feldens can get onto those Carpentums, look, they're just absolutely deleting those Carpentums. But again, luckily for Carnage, that he does have the range on these Carpentums. He is able to kite, and he did have numbers advantage and the defender's advantage, and so Carnage able to destroy that army there for Eery. But meanwhile, Eery trying to kind of deal damage on either end of the map for Carnage. Look at this. These Feldens are just absolutely wrecking these units over here. There's only 2 of them. And these Harjars are pushing on this archery range, so Carnage trying to get these units out of his base. Carnage on his back foot here. Look at this. No gold gatherers. Completely starved for gold. He has got to establish his market line, and he has got to establish some defense over here. He threw up 1 guard tower, but he has got to throw up a wall over here. He really needs to get a wall. He's getting a wall over here on the right side, but he's got to get a wall so that he can defend his market line. He has built 3 markets now, but he just has no defense. And look at this. Another huge raid ready to come in here for Eery. Eery's got 20 horsemen and 15 raiders. Now up to 17, 18 raiders. So huge raid coming in there on the northern part. And then look at this. Oh my goodness. 35, 37 Ufelden for Eery coming in. He's going to be able to deny this archer range. Going to be able to get this dock. And you know, these Ifeldens also have a bonus against cavalry, so they're able to hurt these horsemen and these Carpentums. And yeah, that two-pronged attack, Carnage just got absolutely deleted by this two-pronged attack. Eery came in at the exact, such a beautiful play from Eery. Came in with these Ifelden over here on the southeastern part of the map, and came in with those raiders and horsemen on the northwestern part of the map. And Carnage, as you can see, had his entire army over here to deal with these Ifelden, and had nothing over here to deal with these units, and he was just so gold starved that he recognized that that was the game. So, good game. Okay, so good game. Guys, we're almost up to 40 viewers, and just in time, we're going to have Game 2 coming up here shortly. Let's take a look at some post-game stats. I'm going to allow these players to choose their next civs and their next map. So, villagers, pretty even. Until the end there, you know, again, Eery just was getting some great raids, and as you can see, especially those caravans dying, just completely dipped Carnage's villager count, and then dipped again, and you know, he was at around 50 villagers to, you know, 90 so
Ahura Master bless you.
Of Eery, and that just wasn't enough. Alpha Leopard, thanks for the follow on the Project Celeste channel, my friend. Appreciate that. Thanks for the follow. He said he realized he's not even following. Thanks for the follow, buddy. Glad you're here. Guys, check out Alpha Leopard's stream. He streams sometimes, Age of Empires Online, so very cool that he's here. We're glad to have him. But yeah, so villager count, just, you know, again, Eery devastated Carnage there, and then this military population, as we can see, Carnage just was not able to respond in the late game, and so that unit composition was just so devastating for Eery. He transitioned to these raiders and horsemen and these Ifelden, and those Ifelden were just so powerful. So well played there from Eery. Good game to both players. And now we have game number 2 coming right up. Oh gosh. Okay, so let me update our standings here. Oh, whoops. You guys saw, so what you're seeing right now on stream is is PF2K's version of map bans, and that is my version of map bans. So as you can see, PF2K is much better organized than I am. I'm kidding. PF2K actually created that one as well, except for the little things I added. Okay, I digress. Let's focus. Eery leads the series 1 match to none against Carnage. Game number 2 is coming up in just a moment. Game number 2 coming up in just a moment between these two players. It looks like I've not got our map pick yet. So Eery takes the map versus the Celts. Eery is forced to change. Carnage does not have to change. So Eery does have to change his civ, but Carnage does not. Okay, so Carnage has chosen Sheltered Pass as the next map, and Carnage has chosen the Persians, while Eery has selected the Celts. So, Persians for Carnage versus the Celts for Eery on Sheltered Pass. So let me know what you guys think about this matchup with the Persians versus the Celts. You know, Persians have that kind of age 2 cavalry advantage with the Asabara, but Celts are very strong civs, so we'll see. And Sheltered Pass is an interesting map as well. It can be somewhat of a defensive map, but it may come down to who is able to control those choke points and those crossing points on the map. So we'll see. PF2K says least favorite matchup in the entire game as Persians. So appears to be favored for Greeks is the consensus. Chinla says the Asabara is good, but the Celt Spearman is way too cost effective. Celt Spearmen are very cost effective. They only cost 40 food. So they are very cheap. Alright, so we're going to get into game number 2 here on Sheltered Pass. So game number 2 is beginning now. Ooh, sweet. We got the Celtic Autumn map skin. Huge shout out to PF2K. He is so talented with these graphics and these map skins. He created this Celtic Autumn for us in addition to Persian Valley, and they're both amazing. This Celtic Autumn is just beautiful. Alright, so in our red corner we have Eery as the Celts, and in our blue corner we have Carnage as our Persians. So a lot of folks tend to think that the Celts are favored here. Celts do have access to the slingers versus those Persian bowmen in age 2, so along with druids, in addition to those slingers and the long swords to deal with those Sparabara for the Persians. Celts do have a very strong infantry and ground game there, but perhaps our Persian player, Carnage, perhaps he'll try to get some raiding done with his Asabara so that he can try to keep the pressure up on the Celtic player. We will see. But just look at this map, guys. Isn't that absolutely gorgeous? White spotted deer. These trees. The leaves are falling off now where I'm from, but just a few weeks ago it looked pretty much like this. So very cool. Huge shout out to PF2K for not just this, but everything he's done for the game. Barracks is down for Eery. Eery has got some spearmen coming out. Barracks almost done for Carnage, so Carnage He's going to try to get some spar bar out here to probably go on the defensive, because Eery is going straight for the Spearman Rush. He's not choosing to mass up his spears. He is choosing to just go straight for that Spearman Rush. Moving in with his scout, he is going to see that Carnage has no Sparabara yet, and he does see this this hunt here. So the question is he going to choose to go for the front door here, or is he going to choose to go for the back door? It's a little bit longer of a walk, but he won't get hit by this town center fire. He's going to move away instead. Okay. I guess he recognized that, you know, these Sparabara were coming out very shortly for Carnage, so Carnage going to be able to defend there. It's got this Persian aid tent coming, so this Persian aid tent gives the storehouses the ability to heal friendly units within range. Look at this, Eery. So whereas we saw Casper have difficulty transitioning to his second hunt earlier today, we've got Eery very deftly transitioning to his second hunt, kind of mid first hunt, so nice play there from him. Eery did try to move in, but he is going to be met by a wall of Sparabara, so he's going to choose to fall back. Carnage is going to try to harass a little bit with his scout here, but to no avail. So Eery still trying to press the issue with this Spearman here. Carnage very smartly maneuvering his Sparabara here. Carnage has not transitioned yet to second hunt, but Carnage recognizes that he does not have control of his surrounding base right now, and so he is going to transition to the berries instead. So smart play there from Carnage to transition to the berries instead of his second hunt. And really, truth be told, he didn't really have a great second hunt option, actually. Had one over here, has one right here. I guess that was okay enough. Here he might have had the advantage there, but nevertheless, nice little engagement here. Carnage is going to lose one Sparabara. Eery loses a Spearman. Look at that town center, very defensive town center. Eery also going for some two-prong grading here, moving his Spearman over here to the northeastern part or northwestern part of Carnage's base. Carnage is an H2, getting down that second town center. Again, very defensive second town center. Eery now going to try for this two-pronged approach on this wood line. But Carnage maneuvering his Sparabara very smartly. Might lose a Spearman or two. Very forward town center here for Eery. Look at that. So this map, again, you know, it's divided by this ravine through the middle of the map. There's a choke point here, and then a choke point here for each player, as well as this four kind of quad choke point here in the middle. But Eery throwing down a town center on this choke point over here to protect these mines and establish some map control over here. So Eery recognizes that Carnage is pretty much relegated to his base right now, and so Eery he feels safe enough to go for this town center over here. Now Carnage trying to break out of his base a little bit and get onto his second hunt here. He's got an archer range coming down, so he is going to go for those Persian bowmen. Carnage might scout. He is going to scout this, but it's going to be a little bit too late, and I don't know that he would have been able to do anything about it anyway. Carnage now trying to micro his units here, and defend against a Spearman from Eery. This A10 is going to give a nice little advantage for Carnage, and Carnage does have some bowmen onto the field now as well, so Eery is going to be forced to retreat. Stables coming down for Carnage as well, so we'll be seeing some Asabara. Meanwhile, let's take a look at Eery's base. Nice little wall with his houses, and yeah, as we anticipated, slingers coming down. In fact, double archery range here for Eery. Eery recognizes that those bowmen are going to be a force to be reckoned with, and so he is getting out those slingers in order to deal with these bowmen. Casper says, "Stop rubbing salt into my wounds, or I'll 1v1 you." Just giving you, pointing it out, Casper. I learned myself from these matches. I think this casting matches has also helped me learn a ton. So, for any players who are wanting to get into PvP and learn the game, this is one of the best ways to do it. To watch these casted matches, to learn about the game, see how especially these high-level players, how they make their decisions, what they choose to do, and the unit compositions, and their macro choices, and just their build orders, and everything is very, very useful for learning the game. So take no offense, Casper. I love you, buddy. Just trying to point out ways that we can all improve. But back to the game here. Second barracks coming down for Carnage, as well as a second archery range. So we'll see what the choice is here. No Asabara on the field yet. Excuse me, two Asabara on the field now for Carnage, but he's not choosing to raid with them. Now he is. As soon as I say something. Choose to move those Asabara out, see what kind of damage he can get done with them here. Sacred Grove coming down for Eery, so Eery's going to supplement his slingers with some druids. He already has a couple on the field, and yet another archer range. So again, investing very heavily into the slinger ball, which is a good, smart move for him, given the fact that, again, those bowmen can be devastating, so those slingers are going to do great work against those bowmen. And I think this is ultimately why we're seeing, or what we're seeing is, I think, ultimately why PF2K maybe does not like this matchup as the Persians. Though Eery is now H3 as well and is getting out some bowmen, so that's an interesting choice from Eery, getting out those bowmen as well. Maybe to add in that extra DPS. Here comes the raid from Carnage. Carnage is going to be able to force these villagers away here. Eery trying to respond. Carnage might get a villager. Gets one, gets two. Nice. Nicely done there from Carnage. Carnage, though, is now going to need to retreat. He hasn't seen this yet. Those Asabara are going to get trapped. Just trying to run away. This is neat, though, from Eery. Oh, wow. There's a hole in that tree line. Neat from Eery is he kind of left these spearmen on this hunt to see when Carnage was going to transition to this hunt over here. So ultimately didn't do a ton for him, but at least now he knows that Carnage is on that third hunt. Knowledge is half the battle a lot of the time. No watch posts yet for either player. Would like to maybe see Eery throw down some watch posts. But look at this, Carnage moving out with a pretty scary army. He's got some Asabara and Sparabara in the front there. Quite a bit of bowmen in the back, 40 bowmen. That scout is going to meet his untimely demise. So that scout is now depleted. Eery, now that it's an H3, is throwing down this town center. This town center is not really protecting anything, kind of protecting this hunt, but the reason Eery is putting it here is he wants to establish a market line, the longest market line possible. So throwing down that third town center. Still no H3 from Carnage, though. He could go to H3 if he chose to, but he's moving in. He's not choosing to go to H3 right now because he's moving in, and so he needs these resources to resupply his army. And look at this, that Sparabara meat shield there is very nice. The Celts do have some horsemen onto the field, but those bowmen are just very strong. And the Sparabara being able to be in the front there and get onto the ranged units of the Celt player was such that Carnage was able to take the advantage in this engagement. And now all of a sudden more bowmen and slingers for Eery, so Carnage doesn't really have to worry about those slingers, but look at this. Augur on the field. Does destroy the Augur. Look at this. Carnage has pushed Eery all the way into the back of his base, into the tree line. So many units just streaming across the field here for Carnage. This could be good for Carnage. This could be gain. Maybe not yet. Eery, 47 villagers to 69 for Carnage. So despite the fact that Eery is in H3 now, you know, well, Eery is now in H3, so he's going to be able to ramp up his villager production very swiftly, but he's very significantly behind right now, behind by 22 villagers. Carnage does choose to retreat. He decides that he's done enough damage, and he's going to retreat, regather his forces, and now it looks like he might choose to make a play on the second town center. So this could be devastating for Carnage as well. Eery could be devastated here by this. Eery desperately trying to get his population back up, but look how low he is on resources. He's got a lot of units queued up, but he's got 100 population to 160 for Carnage. So going to H3 quickly for Eery might not have paid off for him. Look at this. This could be it. What was that? Did I just... What is this buff for? Or no, it's a buff for Eery. Reduces training time. So training time reduced. A nice choice of right there for Eery, but Carnage is going to get this town center. This is absolutely huge for Carnage. And look at this. Carnage is still close to maxed out, and Eery is still desperately trying to get his population up. He chose, you know, the Celts have the ability to use augurs to make sacrifices and get rights that buff their units or their buildings. And Eery did use the training time buff, but I don't think it was enough. Eery did try to repair that town center, but Carnage was able to kill the villagers. And now this is somewhat in Eerie's favor, so Carnage was able to get the town center, but he's not going to be able to win this battle here. Eery does have the numbers advantage, has the druids in his army, so good pickup there from Carnage. He does lose, you know, a significant amount of his army, but he's almost back to 160 population, while Eery has still yet to break 120 population. And now Carnage, look at this, breaking off a part of his army into a two-pronged attack here. So now Eerie's going to be forced to respond to this, but Carnage still has a primary force back here. So Carnage trying to play some mind games, trying to do what he can to break the defense of Eery. He's got a market coming up, Eery does, so he's going to be able to establish his market line, and he desperately needs that market line. He suddenly lost control of the map. You know, Carnage, one lone farmer over here. Carnage has pretty much free reign over his side of the map, but Eery is now kind of on his back foot on his side of the map. He's got these horsemen over here, so these horsemen are going to be able to try to defend against this attack from Carnage, but Carnage recognizes that this market is over here and is going to push onto this market. So as soon as Eery had the market up, Carnage is going to delete it. He's going to absolutely destroy it, and now Carnage also at the exact same time moving in with his primary force. Look at this. Eery once again using the Right of Damara in order to increase training time. So he is going to try to pump out units, but he is somewhat low in his economy. 62 villagers to 85, so still 20 plus advantage for Carnage economically in terms of the villagers. And Eery is going to be able to defend against this raid from Carnage, but Carnage is now in H3 as well, so third town center going to come down for Carnage. Carnage is going to establish his market line, extend it even further. He decides he doesn't like that placement, or no, I'm sorry, he tried to build it there, but it got canceled by a tree. So building that town center there. And look at this, pushing on the eastern side as well. Does Carnage know that this third town center is over here? He does not. So he does not know that this third town center is over here, but he may be able to infer it from the market line. He may be able to infer that Eery, you know, just like he has placed, you know, they're kind of inverted. Carnage has his market in this kind of crevice in the town center on the corner, whereas Eery has the town center in the crevice versus the market in the corner. But Carnage may be able to infer that that town center is over there, but we'll see. Eery meeting his opponent head-to-head, toe-to-toe on the field of battle. Going to lose 2 horsemen, unfortunately, there. Eery is now back in the lead, population-wise, although not for long. Both players should be pretty even soon enough at 180 population. It's going to be absolutely critical that Eery keep this market line, and yeah, he is investing pretty heavily into the defense of this market line over here. Carnage is sending some horse or some Asabara, but he is going to run straight into this wall for Eery, and very smartly for Eery, because Eery does desperately need that gold. Meanwhile, Carnage trying to make something happen here in the middle of the map, but recognizes that this is not an engagement he wants, so he's going to fall back, kite a little bit. And you've got to wonder, you know, Carnage had a significant advantage when he was in the base of Eery. You've got to wonder, did Carnage retreat when he shouldn't have? Did Carnage maybe squander the advantage? I don't know. We'll see. He's a better player than I am, so I'm sure he chose to do it for a reason. But suddenly Eery is right back into this game. Look at these Immortals, though. What an amazing looking unit the Immortals are. So the Immortals are a very powerful unit for the Persians. They are onto the field now. Will it be enough for Carnage to take control of this game once again? Carnage's population plummeting. These bowmen for the Celts are absolutely huge, but he has no infantry now. He has got no shield, so he's going to try to kite with his bowman ball here. He's got an augur and a druid in there to give out some healing. But he's gonna retreat here. Recognizes that he has no shield for his ranged units. So those Immortals, those Sparabara, the Asabara are going to be able to get onto the ranged units for Eery there. Carnage throwing up some walls over here to protect his market line. Would like to maybe see Carnage kind of maybe push out of his side of the map a little bit and maybe try to establish some dominance over here to take control of maybe these resources here at the very least. Maybe throw up some walls here and here. Eery does have a watch post over there though, so he's going to be able to see if Carnage makes any moves over here. So Eery very smartly defending his market line here, but a big engagement in the middle. Carnage, these Immortals again are just so strong. He's got some Asabara, but those Asabara are going to fall to these horsemen. This could be anyone's match. Look at this. Augur converted a unit, I think an Immortal maybe. Carnage trying to hold on, but this bowman, still 40 plus bowman for Eery, so Eery just commanding advantage here with these bowmen, just so significant. You know, he's got a few, oh my gosh, this horseman, what an idiot. And look at this, training time, right of Damara, activated once again for Eery, so Eery is trying to very quickly replenish his army so that he can perhaps deal a killing blow, but Carnage has queued up enough units to get back to 180 as well. He's getting some Takabara onto the field to supplement his Immortals. So he's going to try to use those Takabara to get to these bowmen, and look at this. Carnage has a split force here. He's going to try to sandwich Eery, and it just might work. Eery is somewhat aware of it. Carnage has these units flanked, but is it enough? Are his units enough to deal with these units of Eery? He's got the Asabara onto these bowmen, so that is absolutely huge for Carnage, and Eery is going to be forced to fall back. Slowly but surely. Carnage needs to get his units back into the fight. And now suddenly he's got Eery on the run. Once again, back and forth game here, folks. Could be anyone's game at this point. of a sudden, Carnage pushing over here on the left side of the map here. And that's actually huge for Eery because Eery is quite gold starved, so and those were his only gold miners. And now he's going to have to rely completely on his caravans. Now, his caravans are getting almost 150 per pop there, so that is a very significant caravan line. But nevertheless, he's just so behind. Look at this. Carnage has already went to H4, and he still has this huge bank of resources. Carnage has a significant economic advantage right now, because he's still, you know, we talk, and ultimately that might, if something wins the game for Carnage, that may be it, because we talked about how Carnage had that villager advantage really since the mid game, 20 plus villager advantage, and he still has such an advantage. He still has almost a 20 villager advantage, so that's huge for Carnage there. Carnage now in the golden age, has a ton of resources in the bank, needs to throw down that 4th town center. Where is he gonna? Oh, look at this. I missed this. A huge raid from Eery. I was wondering why the villagers were dropping for Carnage. I apologize, folks. I missed the raid there for Eery. Eery activating that right of Damara again, but Carnage is in the base of Eery. Eery is also in the base of Carnage. Carnage training some mounted archers to deal with these horsemen. And so he's going to try to delete this, defend against this raid from Eery. Eery's going to get a stables here. So Carnage, maybe a bit of an oversight. He maybe needed to throw some walls up over here on the right side of the map, on the eastern side. And all of a sudden, he has no army here in Eery's base. His army is pretty much defeated. He's trying to rally some units, but he does defend against this raid from Eery, but all of a sudden Eery has got Carnage on a little bit of the run. Oh, nice pickup though there from Carnage. Carnage does make a beeline with his immortals though to get those that market of Eery, so he does pick up that market, and now Eery is going to have to rebuild, although Eery did already rebuild his market there. So nice response there for Eery. Eery very quickly rebuilding that market, recognizing how important that market line is. He has gotten his gold back up, so that's good for Eery. But look at this, Carnage took my advice. He must have heard me, and he established some map control over here on this left part, and he does now have some battering rams coming out. So if Eery's not able to defend against this, that could be huge for Carnage. We'll see how that works out for him. Look at this, though. Eery, once again, in the base of Carnage. Carnage does have a few mounted archers in the back there, though, so although that might have been a misclick for Carnage. Carnage probably rallied all of his units here to the middle. So he does have 2 horsemen here harassing him in the back, and oh my goodness, now Eery all of a sudden has Carnage surrounded, but will it be enough? Carnage has some Asabara trying to break through to get to the bowmen. Mounted archers do come in to turn the tide of the battle, so they are going to be able to defeat this flanking force for Eery. And then these immortals are just so strong, and now Immortal Champion so strong are able to hold the front line as well. So Carnage, very well done there to defend against that 2-pronged attack from Eery. And so now suddenly Eery is having to regather his forces in his base. And is he prepared for these rams? He may be. He's got some Woad Raiders over here, so I don't know if he's anticipating rams or what. Does Eery know about this siege workshop? He does. So he does know siege workshop. The workshop is over there, and he knows these rams are coming. So very nice response there from Eery to get those Woad Raiders and horsemen over there. But meanwhile, Carnage is pressing the attack in the middle of the map here. Pressing over here on this wall. Going to try to get over here to these villagers. But it's making quick work of these bowmen for Eery. Eery finally going to H4. Once again, right of Damara. Trying to speed up these training units here. Speed up the training for his units. And Carnage trying to press in, trying to make something happen here. Eery's going to move his units over here, but Carnage still has rams queued up as well. And so he's trying to make life difficult on Eery, trying to seal the coffin here. But I don't know that he'll be able to do it. These forces are going to come in and be able to help Eery's home defense force here. Carnage is streaming in units. He's streaming in more champions, Or I'm sorry, streaming in more Immortal champions, streaming in more Asabara champion. Again, he needs to establish some defense over here. He was able to defend against that raid, but he needs, while Carnage has the advantage, he needs to establish some map control. Look at this stuff. He did break through the wall over here, and this could be game, folks. Look at this. Carnage broke through the wall right here with his horsemen and got to this market line. This is huge. He is absolutely decimating the caravan line there for Eery. Still pressing the advantage here in the middle of the map, and that is game. Well played from Carnage. Absolutely critical attack here. Moved some horsemen, or some Asabara, through this wall. Was able to find this town center and just picked apart these caravans and just held the line in the middle of Eery's base here, while also still pressuring him on the left side of the map. So once again, Carnage showing how strong of a player he is by being absolutely all over the map. GG. Folks, get your hype ready. Game number 3 coming right up. Game number 3 is coming indeed. So, so our players are choosing their civs there. Let's take a look at some post-game stats. Again, I want to quickly talk about the villager count. So we talked about mid-game. Carnage, he was able to get some raiding done. He was able to get a significant economic advantage, and he was able to also delay Eery's market line for a little while, such that this villager population was just solidly in Carnage's control. So the economic advantage there for Carnage, and look at this, 16,000 more resources gathered for Carnage. So again, a significant economic advantage there, and that shows up in the text as well. Had a technology advantage there for Carnage as a result of his economic advantage, and ultimately Carnage was just able to hold the line, and then that final attack there was just brilliant maneuvering from Carnage. Instead of going directly for the markets, he went for the end destination of those caravans with these Asabara, and were able to kill caravans, and then also was just able to hold the line in the middle of Eery's base here. So just nicely done.
Ahura Mazda bless.
Nicely done indeed for Carnage. And so we are getting game number 3, the decider match. Varigal, thank you very much. Or Varigal, I don't know. Thank you very much for the follow. Thank you very much for the follow for the Project Celeste stream. Folks, we're going to game number 3. Anybody's match here. Okay, so Carnage takes game number 2. It is 1-1, all tied up. And our final deciding map will be Mountain Crossing. Eery has chosen the Persians. Eery has chosen the Persians, and we'll see what Carnage has chosen. Eery on the Persians, and look at this. Carnage is on the Greeks. So, Eery is going to be playing the Persians, and Carnage is going to be playing the Greeks, and the map will be Mountain Crossing. So let me see in chat. Let me hear what you guys think about this matchup. Let me hear what you think about Greeks versus Persians, and about this map. And let me hear you in chat. Let me hear what you guys think. Who's going to win this matchup, or who's going to win this match between Eery versus Carnage? Game number 3, the deciding match. Who's going to take it home? Who's going to move on to the next round, Carnage or Eery? It's anyone's game here, folks. Anyone's game, indeed. We've got Carnage in the blue corner once again for a third and final time. Carnage is in the blue corner, and he has got the Greeks versus the Persians of Eery. So, Mountain Crossing, this map is pretty even. As you can see, both players going for an early dock here. So, as opposed to the early racks, both players have chosen to go for the early dock. The cool thing about the dock is that, just like the town center, it is a resource drop-off point. And so you can, and since the tree line, or there is a tree line right on the lake here, our players are able to gather wood at the dock there. So intelligent play there from our players. Carnage getting his sheep early. I don't see. There's a hunt. One hunt. Okay, that should be even. Yeah, it's even. One hunt for Eery and one hunt for Carnage. Carnage is a little bit further away, but not too bad. So I don't think we need to restart here. But Carnage is choosing to go for the sheep instead of the hunt. He is now maybe going to go for the hunt. I mean, he is relying pretty heavily on these fishing boats. You know, with the dock down, these fishing boats are able to come out and provide food as well. So it's not as necessary, you know, when you have that early kind of fishing, it's not as necessary to be on your hunt. So looks like both players are going to go for the quick H2. Neither player has transitioned to a barracks just yet, despite the fact that they, or at least Carnage, has the wood to do so. Again, both players choosing to go for that fast H2. I'm not sure. I guess Carnage doesn't want to invest the wood in this hunt storehouse here. He's wanting to save his wood for the fishing boats and also the town center coming for H2. I guess that's why he's choosing to go for berries instead of the hunt. Eery did choose to go for the hunt, though, in addition to his fishing boats. Neither player in H2, but they are going to be pretty much hitting H2 at the exact same time. So it looks like we're going to have a bit of an economic game here. Let's take a look at the rest of the map real quick. Some nice cliffs here. It's kind of funny. This well, they might not have explored this plateau yet, but there's a little plateau down here. This tree line is kind of blocking Carnage, though. Eery has a bit more of an opening. And same thing for the top. Carnage has kind of these little entryways, but Eery has a massive entryway right there. So, and look at this. Carnage, though, actually going for this dock on the third lake. So, nice there from Carnage. Carnage also going for a town center up here in this corner on this gold mine. I like this town center from Carnage. That allows him to get a market going over here. Kind of the length of his interior base here. But yeah, look at this. I mean, this is very open here for Eery. But Carnage did already get a dock down, so Eery choosing to go for a town center kind of right at this choke point. It does cover this gold mine here, so kind of defends this choke point. Is covering this gold mine. Nice choice there from Eery. Finally, a barracks coming down for Carnage. Stables down, though, for Eery. So Eery's going to choose to go for those Asabara. And, you know, that may be the best choice because Greeks don't have a great anti-cavalry option in Age 2. They have their spearmen. And spearmen get the job done, especially in a defensive situation, but they may be difficult to defend against raiding with, or defend raiding with. So we'll see. Eery's going to try to lean into these cavalry units, though, and is also going for an archer range. Double archer range, in fact. Whereas Carnage is going for a 1-1-1 build, so he's going for a rack, stables, archer range. Second archer range coming down as well. So it looks like Carnage has the idea that he wants to invest heavily in those Toxotes. Sarasopheroi are going to be able to defend against Persian bowmen if Eery goes Persian bowmen. Here comes a little bit of a raid, though, for Eery. And Carnage doesn't really have much to defend against this with. He's got 2 spearmen now. So he is going to drop a villager. But Eery needs to get his Asabara out of there. He might lose an Asabara. No, he does not. Villager count 37 to 36, so pretty much dead even in villagers. Carnage is going to have a nice, Carnage may have the villager advantage or stay maybe right there caught up with Eery in terms of villagers as a result of these fishing boats. But Eery trying to make life difficult on Carnage. He's moving these Asabara now into the southern part of Carnage's base, so he's going to be able to harass this shoreline here a little bit. He might be able to harass these villagers, but Carnage is going to move his spearmen in. So Carnage recognizes that Eery is investing heavily into these Asabara, so he's going to invest in some spearmen to try to defend. So that's a good choice there from Carnage, but primarily it looks like Carnage has the idea again that he wants to get this Toxotes ball. He's got several spearmen as well to defend his front lines. So Eery trying to, again, raid on multiple fronts here. Does Eery know about this dock up here? He doesn't. He does. Well, if he realizes it, he may not have realized it, but he did technically scout it. So he does technically know about it. If this game does go the long haul, I'm going to be interested to see how Eery deals with this second town center here. This town, unless he has control of the map, kind of in this northern neutral area, he could be vulnerable to attack on this town center. So we'll see. Nice raid coming in for Eery. He's going to deny that building there for Carnage. Carnage going to build it right back. and is able to run the Asabara away for the most part. Both players kind of not doing a ton. Eery is doing a little bit of raiding. Trying to, again, give Carnage a headache, kind of pressure him a little bit. Fairly even on population. Slight advantage to Carnage. We'll see what happens here with this Bowman ball. Pretty cool looking spearman here for our Persian player, and quite a few Bowman for the Persian player. So we're going to have Toxotes versus Bowman. Be interesting to say the least. And look at this. Eery's moving in yet again with his Asabara, so he's trying to pressure this northern part of Carnage's base, but Carnage is ready. Meanwhile, Eery slowly creeping up in the middle of the map here. He's got a wall down here, so neither player has tried to kind of gain control. Look at this. Both players are using sheep as scouts to try to know when their opponent is on that gold mine. That's funny. Look at this, though. Nice flank from Eery with these Asabara, but then a counter flank from Carnage with his units here. These Series really need to get onto these Bowmen, though. He needs to move these Series onto these Bowmen. They have that ranged bonus. And yeah, those Toxotes are able to kite there, and we're able to defeat the Asabara and the Spearman there for Eery. So now Eery suddenly on his back foot. Folks, are we going to have the... I can't remember. I believe it's not the Sassanid Empire, but the Persians that defeated the Greeks initially. You know, the Spartans held off the Greeks at the Battle of Thermopylae, but the Persians ultimately defeated the Greeks, and then some hundreds of years later, Alexander the Great decided to take revenge for his fellow Greeks on the Persians and conquer the Persian Empire. So are we going to see Alexander the Great in Carnage, or are we going to see, remind me, I believe it's Darius. No, Darius lost to Alexander. Are we going to see Xerxes for Eery? We will see Carnage pressing heavily into Eery's base. Eery suddenly very dangerous here for Eery. Eery's so low on food, pretty low on gold. Look at this, 90 population to 160 for Carnage. Is Carnage going to win this game? With one fell swoop, one major counter push, and all of a sudden Eery is absolutely decimated. Oh shoot, I didn't mean to dismiss that. Whoops. Crap. Good game. Wow, GG, folks. That was quite the interesting matchup there. Eery, you know, he pushed in and had this engagement kind of in the middle of the map, and Carnage was able to kind of sandwich his units. Carnage had the compositional advantage and was able to defeat Eery's army, and then Eery was not able to respond. Eery was low on food. In fact, he had very few food gatherers. He only had 4 food gatherers. So very low on food. Was also somewhat low on gold. Didn't have a market going or anything like that. Did have enough gold gatherers. He had 8, but yeah, just ultimately Carnage was able to counter push and end the game. 54 villagers to 67. So once again, Carnage had a pretty significant macro advantage there. So wow, well played from Carnage. Lost that first game. Carnage lost his first game, so it was 1-0 Eery. Carnage was on match, or Eery was on match point and then Carnage won the next